JonBenét Patricia Ramsey, born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia, was the daughter of John and Patsy Ramsey. The Ramsey family, which included JonBenét's older brother Burke, moved to Boulder, Colorado in 1991, where John led a successful career as the president and CEO of Axis Graphics, which later became a part of Lockheed Martin. Patsy Ramsey, a former Miss West Virginia, was deeply involved in JonBenét's upbringing, especially her activities and interests. From an early age, JonBenét was bright and energetic, attending kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen, introduced JonBenét to the world of child beauty pageants. Under Patsy's guidance, JonBenét excelled, winning titles like Little Miss Colorado and National Tiny Miss Beauty. She was known for her poise, confidence, and charm, often stealing the spotlight at these events. There was no doubt in the minds of the parents that JonBenét would go on to become very successful in the world of beauty pageants and modeling. But fate seemed to have other plans for little JonBenét. On a cold December morning in 1996, the Ramsey family in Boulder, Colorado, awoke to find their 6-year-old daughter missing, and a ransom note demanding $118,000. What followed was one of the most sensational and perplexing murder cases in modern history. On the morning of December 26, 1996, Patsy Ramsey discovered a chilling 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on the kitchen staircase at the Ramsey family's Boulder residence. The note demanded $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. Frantic with worry, the Ramseys alerted the authorities.
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on. Are you
Patsy Ramsey, I'm the mother. Oh my God! Please.
I'm sending an officer over, okay?
Please.
Do you know how long she's been gone?
No, I don't. Please, we just got out and she's right here. Oh my God, please.
Patsy telephoned the police and also called family and friends. 2 police officers, Linda Arndt and Rick French, responded to the 911 call and arrived at the Ramsey home within 3 minutes. They conducted a cursory search of the house, focusing primarily on the main floor of the house, where they looked for signs of forced entry or any indication of where JonBenét might have gone. They examined rooms and common areas, trying to piece together the events leading up to her disappearance, but did not find any sign of forced entry. During the search, Officer Rick French approached a door in the basement, secured with an extra wooden latch at the top of the frame. After a brief pause, he chose not to open it. French later clarified his decision, stating he was searching for a potential escape route the kidnapper might have used. The presence of the wooden latch on the inside of the door suggested that it had not been used for exit. It was closed from the inside of the house, making it implausible for the kidnapper to have used it and then latched it shut from within, thereby ruling out this door as a possible escape route. As JonBenét remained missing, John Ramsey, her father, made arrangements to comply with the ransom demands. Meanwhile, a forensics team was promptly dispatched to their residence. Initially treating the situation as a kidnapping, the team focused on preserving JonBenét's bedroom to safeguard potential evidence, cordoning it off from the rest of the house. Unfortunately, other areas of the house were not similarly protected against potential contamination. At 1 p.m., Detective Linda Arndt requested that John Ramsey and Fleet White, a family friend, conduct a thorough search of the house to assess for anything unusual. Beginning in the basement, John Ramsey discovered a door secured with a latch that had been overlooked earlier by Officer Rick French. Behind this door, John tragically found his daughter, JonBenét's lifeless body. JonBenét was found with duct tape covering her mouth, a nylon cord around her wrists and neck, and her torso draped with a white blanket. Overcome with grief, John Ramsey lifted JonBenét's body and carried her upstairs. This movement of the body, however, led to further contamination of the crime scene, compromising critical forensic evidence. This discovery marked a devastating turn in the investigation into JonBenét Ramsey's disappearance, altering the course of the case from kidnapping to murder and raising numerous questions about the circumstances surrounding her tragic death. Upon seeing JonBenét's body, Detective Linda Arndt realized the severity of the situation. She instructed John Ramsey to place JonBenét's body on the floor, and then she covered the body with a blanket, which inadvertently led to further contamination. The Ramsey home became ground zero for a media storm. As investigators combed through the crime scene, disturbing questions emerged. Who could commit such a heinous act against an innocent child? Speculation ran rampant. Was it an intruder lurking in the shadows? A family member with a hidden agenda? The autopsy, conducted shortly after the discovery, revealed that JonBenét had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture, with the official cause of death being asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. Although there was no evidence of conventional rape, the possibility of sexual assault could not be ruled out, as there were signs of vaginal injury. The garrote used in the strangulation was made from a nylon cord and the broken handle of a paintbrush. JonBenét's mouth was covered with a piece of duct tape, and her wrists were loosely bound with a nylon cord. The bindings on her wrist did not show signs of struggling, suggesting she may have been unconscious or otherwise incapacitated when they were applied. But the toxicology tests that were conducted to determine if JonBenét had been drugged or poisoned did not find any substances in her system that would indicate she had been sedated or poisoned before her death. The autopsy did note several abrasions and bruises on JonBenét's body, including her shoulders, legs, and back. These injuries were consistent with a struggle or an assault before her death. The ransom note found at the scene of JonBenét Ramsey's disappearance is one of the most intriguing and puzzling pieces of evidence in the case. The ransom note is unusually long, spanning 2.5 pages. This is not typical for ransom notes, which are usually brief and to the point. The length and detail suggest a significant amount of time was spent composing it, which is unusual for a kidnapper who would typically want to minimize the time spent at the crime scene. Handwriting experts and linguists have analyzed the note extensively. The note's handwriting has never been conclusively matched to any known suspects, including the Ramseys. The language and phrasing used in the note have been scrutinized, with some experts suggesting it mimics lines from popular movies and books, adding to the mystery. Following the discovery of JonBenét's body, John and Patsy Ramsey were initially spoken to informally by officers. Thorough interviews were not conducted due to the chaotic environment and the family's emotional state, and yet the Ramseys quickly became prime suspects. Why? The ransom note demanded an amount strikingly similar to John's recent bonus. It was found inside the home. Then there was the parents' behavior and their public relations strategy. Patsy's frantic 911 call and John's handling of JonBenét's body, which potentially contaminated evidence, were heavily scrutinized. Their reluctance to undergo formal police interviews immediately after the murder, and The subsequent delay, advised by their legal team, fueled suspicion and frustration among investigators.
One of the detectives asked me and my friend who was there to go through every inch of the house. Started in the basement. We have one room in the basement that there are no windows in that room. When I opened the door, and when I turned the light on, and I'd hoped that she was still okay, but I could tell that she probably wasn't.
JonBenet's body was covered in a blanket.
Did you take duct tape off her mouth?
I took the duct tape off immediately and then tried to untie her hands, but the knot was way too tight. I couldn't get it loose. I couldn't do anything but scream.
Their public appearance were carefully managed, with their demeanor during interviews and press conferences meticulously scrutinized for signs of guilt or deception. Critics pointed out moments where they appeared overly composed or focused on their own suffering rather than on finding the killer. Their participation in a CNN interview on January 1st, 1997, before fully cooperating with the police, only added to the controversy. Shortly after JonBenet's death, the Ramseys hired public relations expert Patrick Corton and a team of high-profile attorneys. This move seemed unusual for grieving parents and raised questions about their motives.
You believe it's someone outside your home.
There is a killer on the
Absolutely.
loose.
Everybody thought it was bizarre at the time, especially Patsy, who looked drugged up and just had to be going through a living hell. But at the same time, I'm looking at John Ramsey, looking at her. She was the emotional one, and he was the Ice King.
Keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there.
The Ramseys engaged in a media campaign to assert their innocence, including multiple television interviews, public statements, and a book titled The Death of Innocence, written by John and Patsy. This campaign aimed to garner public sympathy and create doubt about their involvement. Critics, however, argued that it was more about protecting their image rather than cooperating with the investigation. Their legal strategy involved not only defending against potential charges, but also conducting a parallel investigation to develop alternative theories of the crime, such as the possibility of an intruder. The early involvement of legal and PR experts was perceived by some as a tactic to obstruct the investigation and control the narrative. While supporters argued the actions were understandable given the intense media scrutiny and pressure, critics felt the Ramseys demonstrated a lack of transparency and an unwillingness to fully engage with law enforcement.